and Om Shanti to everyone. I hope I am properly audible.
Morning. Yes.
Oh, great. So sorry for the delay. Let's begin today's session. So just comfortably sit on your mat, keeping the back and neck straight. And when you feel ready, gently close your eyes. And start observing your breath. The natural flow of your breathing. Don't change the breath, just observe it as it is. And slowly begin to deepen your breathing. We'll be chanting Om one time, followed by the Shanti mantra. Inhale deeply for Om. Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramayah. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukkhadam ma kaschit Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Just feel the vibrations of the mantra. Turn the palms together and rub them together. Place them on the eyes. And very slowly, while blinking and looking at your palms, open up the eyes. Start coming back with a big smile. And namaste to everyone. Let us begin today's session. Right? Okay. So, Today we are going to discuss a very important thing because, before, in the beginning only, it's very good to know why you are practicing asanas and the entire, theory behind Hatha Yoga, right? So today's topic of discussion is Hatha Yoga. I try to cover this topic as soon as possible in the philosophy classes, since when you have your asana classes, you are practicing a limb of Hatha Yoga, and even in your pranayam classes, you are practicing Hatha Yoga, right? And it's very important to understand what Hatha Yoga was made for, right? So that you can not merely get stuck in the separate limbs, but I would say use it or go through it as a process which is building you up for something else, right? So, hut, the word hut, can be directly broken down into two portions. Ha plus tha. Yeah, hut. Now, the initial and like common meaning of hut is actually stubborn, right? But when we see this division, there is a lot of spiritual relevance behind it too, right? The meaning goes deeper. So, her represents the right side, the right nostril. Her represents the right nostril, also the sun element, or the pran shakti. In Hatha Yoga, this portion represents this aspect of our being. When we think of the sun, we think of a lot of energy. So the energizing factor, in scientific terms, if we put it, we can say that the sympathetic nervous system, when that gets activated, when we are in an active mode, right? We are you know doing everyday tasks that we are supposed to. So this portion of the brain which is stimulated, which supports all the activities, right, is the sympathetic nervous system, also the fight or flight mode of the body, right? So this portion of activeness is actually connected to the right nostril. When the right nostril is active, that is when you will see that you are also more active, right? And the third part. So the tha, Hatha, in this, the THA, her part, this represents the left nostril or the moon energy, right? So we have both the sun and the moon energy within us. right? So moon energy is more, feminine in nature. It's the feminine energy, like her. The activeness is more masculine. It's the masculine energy. So we have both the masculine and the feminine energy within us, right? So the sun, it represents the masculine energy, the motivation, the will to do a lot of things. When that part of you gets triggered, you are more in your masculine energy. And the feminine energy is associated more with, the emotions and the, uh, nurturing nature, very patient and very, all of these qualities, the patience, the nurturing nature, right, of your being. We have both of them, right? So we are nurturing also, right? And at the same time, we have that motivation also. So we have both the energies. But feminine energy has this quality, right? So um, the left nostril is associated with the feminine energy that we have. And the moon, when we see the moon, it's very, when you look at the moon, it's very soothing and it's very calm. It's the left side. When the left nostril becomes active, you go into the parasympathetic nervous system mode, that mode of the body which is associated with relaxation, a relaxative state of mind. That is the when the left nostril becomes more dominant, right? And the manas shakti, like I said, the emotions and the mind, when you are more in your head, right? The mental space. So that is represented by the uh, flow of energy through the left nostril, or one can say the flow of breath through the left nostril. When it is more dominant, then you will see you know you will see more feminine qualities surface at that point of time. You will feel much more relaxed, during the day. There are certain moments when we feel very relaxed or calmed down, right? So that those moments, left nostril would be more dominant. And even before going to sleep, left nostril becomes more dominant at that point of time. So basically, relaxative state is induced, right? So at the end of the yoga session, whenever you take a class, your main aim is that the parasympathetic nervous system at least is active, so that that is why people feel very good after practicing yoga. Because yoga will, of course, with the work of the asanas and pranayama, there is a lot of activity that takes place. But at the end of it, because we in yogic practices, you will see the energy that you know uh, put throughout your session, you regain that at the end. Yoga is always supposed to make you feel energized. If it is making you feel drained, that means that you are not doing something correct, right? So the relaxative state is induced at the end of the yoga session always, right? So that the person can begin or end the day with a stable state of mind, a very calm and peaceful state of mind, right? So during the day, both the nostrils become dominant, and they keep switching, right? So I'm not saying that both stop. Like, of course, it can be extreme also, that only one nostril is working, where you are inhaling and exhaling through only one nostril. But sometimes, both of them you will see are working, but one is more dominant, right? So that energy is going to be more dominant within you at that point of time. And both of these nostrils, they keep changing which one is more dominant after about 90 minutes during a day. About, like, for 90 minutes one side is going to be more dominant, and then after 90 minutes, approximately 90 minutes, there is going to be a switch, right? And during this switch, there is going to be a point of time where there is balance between both the nostrils. Both are equally dominant, and that that part, this very tiny part, which takes place for all of us every day, a lot of times, but very momentary. This is the part that the Hatha Yogi is working on elongating. When both the nostrils are equally dominant, that is when, the central, we can say, energy channel in the body gets activated. So in pranayam classes, I have already introduced the concept of nadis, NADIS. But regardless, one more time, I will just briefly mention it. Nadis are the subtle energy channels in the body. Like the blood flows in your body through certain blood vessels, the energy flows in the body through these energetic vessels, which are called the nadis. And according to a few Hatha Yoga texts, there are 72,000 nadis in the body, right? And out of these, a few nadis are the major nadis. And when we boil that number down, first 72 nadis are main considered. Then if we further go down, then 10. And if we further go down, 3 nadis are very important when it comes to your yogic practices. The Ida Nadi, IDA, Ida. Yeah. Then we have the Pingla, PINGALA, Pingla, and Sushumna. So Ida, Pingla, and Sushumna Nadi. These are the 3 nadis that are the major nadis. Basically, out of the 72,000 nadis in the body, these 3 nadis are the major energy channels that are present in the body. And why I am mentioning this is because this has to do greatly with the practices of Hatha Yoga. So Pingla Nadi, the second one that I wrote down, that is associated with the sun energy of the body, right? And the Ida Nadi is associated with the moon energy or the left side. And when both of these balance out, that is when, energy can start flowing through the central nadi, right? Which is the Sushumna Nadi, right? And the main purpose of the Hatha Yogi is to create this sense of balance between both the nadis so that energy can travel through the Sushumna Nadi, right? Now, nadis cannot be seen if you go through a normal body scan, but overall speaking, the 3 major nadis, the location of the 3 major nadis is along the spinal cord. That is why during meditation or any yogic practices, you are asked to sit straight. You are asked to keep the spine straight because the 3 major nadis are located, if we see physically, uh, in your spine region, right? So I'm just going to, use the whiteboard for a minute, right? And just show you, this normal diagram you would have seen in a lot of homeopathic places. So people who practice homeopathy, generally they have, this something like this, right? I am really sorry. Okay. Today. Don't mind my drawing. I will try to make this as clear as possible. So, you know, this is like a junction, right? Three nadis. This is a junction. So even though the diagram isn't very impressive, right? The straight line that I have drawn, it is representing the spinal cord, and this is the central nadi, the Sushumna nadi, right? And this side is the right side. So this is the Pingla nadi, and this is the left side. So this is the Ida nadi, right? So, this diagram completes properly. You have ever seen a homeopathic doctors, most homeopathic doctors, they have this symbol and, where this crisscross is taking place, right? So this crisscross is actually, representing the three main nadis that are there in the body, the Ida, Pingla, and Sushumna nadi. And as you can see, these three nadis, they intersect with one another. And where they do, there is a junction, right? So junction is taking place. And this junction that is, formed is actually the chakra. So you would have seen a lot of, places where the seven main chakras are talked of, right? So the chakras that are formed by the major nadis in the body. So by the Ida, Pingla, and Sushumna nadi, where their junction takes place. So those form the major chakras of the body. There are a lot of energy centers in the body where nadis intersect and form chakras, but those are not the major chakras, right? So the seven chakras that you have heard of, they are formed with the major nadis that are present in the body. So where Ida and Pingla and Sushumna, they merge at like this point. They are merging over here together. They are forming this junction. This is the first main chakra, the root chakra or the Mooladhara chakra. Then like this, they form this junction at seven places, right? So they are the seven main chakras that are present in the body, right? So the Hatha Yogi balances the right and left side because the central nadi, this one, the Sushumna nadi, can only flow when the other two are balanced out. The energy will not flow through this if the both are not balanced out, right? So the moment both of them get balanced, the energy starts flowing through the Sushumna nadi, and that is the aim of the yogi to take the energy flow upward, right? So when you even sit in meditation, the way in which you sit, that cuts off the scope for the energy to move down, right? So then when you proceed in your practice, the energy, the main aim is to make the energy travel up through the Sushumna nadi, right? So I'll just stop sharing my screen. All right. So it's a little bit new concept, and it can take a while for you to, get a hang of it. But this is just the basic introduction, so don't worry too much about it, right? So when you are doing the practices of Hatha Yoga, this is what your aim is. This is the main thing that you are aiming for. And as you proceed, like, health, flexibility, strength, all of these things are going to be byproducts of the process that you are undertaking. Like we, process the sugar and the sugar cane, and there are certain byproducts before we reach the final, refined sugar state. So like that, you are going through this yogic process, and there are going to be a lot of byproducts on the way, right? Like, your flexibility and strength developing, and the cleansing of the body taking place. All of these things are byproducts, but overall you are working to achieve this, right? So start changing your aim of practice. So now when you show up for asana, your main aim should not be that, I should be able to do that headstand or that handstand. Yes, it is good, and it is, it is going to allow you to become a better teacher. When you open up your own body and go through that process, you are able to guide better as well. So I'm not saying to completely eliminate that aim, but you need to know that you are doing all of these practices for a higher goal. So there is a bigger picture that is going on, right? So if you, get injured during hatha yogic practices, means that, you lost sight of your aim, right? So be very careful, right? When you are working with the practices of Hatha Yoga, do not lose sight of the main aim. Other things are going to come automatically, right? Just believe and have faith in the process. So, like the name Hatha, when put together from the name itself, now you can understand Hatha Yoga is practiced to balance out the both the nadis, the Ida and the Pingla nadi, right? So that energy can flow through the Sushumna nadi. So the yogi is constantly going through this process of preparation, preparing the body, preparing the mind in such a manner so that this process can take place easily, right? So Raj Yogi is very advanced level person. So if I ask you guys to, uh, achieve headstand in say a matter of few days, a lot of you, you will put in the hard work and you will try to do that thing, right? Even though there is no timeline that you can set on these things, but regardless, you will try to achieve it. But if I ask you to, sit in silence for 5 days, don't interact with anyone, no phone, no books, nothing. So most of us, we will end up going crazy. So we are not prepared. The body and the mind is not prepared for the kind of depth of meditation that we need. We are not prepared. We will run away. We will say like, we are getting bored. And that is why, yoga is very boring, right? Yoga, if you actually see, if you actually go into the core practices, you will see it's very boring, right? So you need some motivation to keep going, right? So if you understand the depth of the process, that becomes your motivation. Instead of just achieving one or two asanas or perfecting or gaining control over the breath. Sure, they have their own benefits. If you have a more short-term goal in mind, then you can go ahead and achieve those things. Nobody is stopping you, right? You will be able to achieve all of those things, but those are very short-term goals, right? You will gain control over your breathing if you constantly work on it. But that's not where you need to stop, is what I'm saying. People stop at a particular asanas, they stop at working with the breath when they achieve a particular state, right? But you don't have to stop. This class, like class on Hatha Yoga, is all about not stopping, because there is something ahead, right? There is a very beautiful talk by Osho, in which he says that you have to nobody is asking you to stop when the process of yoga is being taught to you. We think that this is the end, right? If we achieve this, that is the end. But no process is saying that stop. We draw conclusions and we stop. We are getting encouraged to achieve something in the yogic practices, or we get discouraged, right? But we put a stop to the practices. So it's very important for you to continue with the practices no matter what, right? So try to understand the form of Hatha Yoga, right, for what it is, rather than how it is, being practiced in the world today, right? So any doubts so far? If not, I will move ahead and talk a little bit more about Hatha Yoga.
You said like, three are the more important things, Ida, Pingala, and Sushmina. And it's also said like there are other 72,000 and the other main ones are 10 as well. So what are the other 10?
Don't go into these things. I just mentioned because, you know, I was just telling you that eventually boiling down, it comes to three only. These three you need to know about. If you can work on these three, that is enough. Because see, nadis, you can read a lot about it. You will find a lot of books, but your mind will get stuck over there. Your mind will, constantly want to. Because if I tell, if you read up about the say 10, the main 10, right? Then you will. I said there are 72. Then you would want to read about 72, right? So reading is the mind's way of perceiving, right? But in yoga, you are trying to experience this thing, right? So deepen your meditation and all other practices, and I don't think you will need me to answer these things for you, right? So this is for a beginner, these become blockages, because even I myself like to read up a lot about these things, but eventually they were blocking, right, my own uh, practice, right?
Okay.
So it's not like I stopped reading, but the numbers, the names, these things, they will get you stuck, right? Rather than empower you, right? Over here.
Yeah. When you draw the picture, there was like three of them, isn't it? So you said like, the root one consists of three, is it like three chakras?
Mhm. Root 1 doesn't consist of three chakras. The point of junction forms one chakra.
So in the picture there was three, like three rounds.
There
Is
are
it more
actually
rounds?
7. There are
Oh,
actually
seven.
7.
Okay. Oh,
So
okay,
that's
okay, okay,
confusing
okay,
in the picture.
okay.
The main chakras, in the body, the 7 main chakras that we generally talk of, all 7 are covered. If you see that
Okay.
image fully, I just covered a part of that image. If you see that full image, you will see that intersection taking place 7 times.
7 times. Okay. Okay. Thank you. And in Hatha is the so the way we move and things like, the it's to give like strength and also to give um, in the exercise, is it going to give like, a stimulation to Ida and Pingala as well without pranayama?
See, of course, like, let me take the example of pranayam, because I am taking a pranayam class also. So when we practice Surya Bhedan and Chandra Bhedan, since you were there last time also, so we are actually stimulating in Surya Bhedan the uh, right nostril more, and in Chandra Bhedan the left nostril is being stimulated more. So of course this is going to take place, but it's going to take you to a point of balancing out. Like as you go deeper into the practices, it's going to balance out the energy flowing through both the nostrils. It's going to balance that out eventually. So like when you practice asanas, more of like um, your sympathetic nervous system is activated at that point of time. So of course, one part is becoming more dominant at that point of time, right? But eventually, overall, when the combination of the practices are done together, that is when the balance and harmony takes place.
Okay, okay.
So for that, we will have to go very, very deep. Even Hatha Yoga, just the practice of Hatha Yoga is very vast. Raj Yoga is completely different and very vast in itself, but even Hatha Yogis, they take years and years to prepare the body, because the body and the mind needs to be prepared. Like I told you, if I ask you to stay quiet for 5 days, most of us will go crazy. We are not ready for that meditation. And yogi, goes in complete seclusion and, practices the sadhana for years and years. So we are not prepared for that. We are working on that when we do Hatha Yoga.
The silence is also part of it.
Sorry?
Is the silence also part of Hatha Yoga?
See, silence I'm giving the example of the silence because just to throw light on how much we are prepared. But of course, eventually, after a point, the yogi goes in isolation, right? So I don't know about the silence, but isolation is definitely going to come as a part of your journey. Very high stage, not initially, not for a very long time, isolation is going to come. But the final point has to be achieved in isolation. So isolation will come at a very advanced stage. So we are preparing ourselves right now. We cannot leave our responsibilities, and it is not right to. Even if we think we want to leave everything behind, it's not right to, because as our parents did for us, we at least have to do back for them, right? I'm not talking about future generation, but we have that responsibility existing in this society, that we have to fulfill certain things. So
yeah, like a karma, isn't it? Like,
exactly. So for us, other practices like Hatha Yoga, Karma Yoga, we will discuss in schools of yoga. So for us, those practices are more practical than Raj Yogic practices, because we cannot leave everything behind. And like I said, it is not right. Even if we think that we can, we will come running back.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a step by step process, it will take years again. Each and every practice of Hatha Yoga, that also takes years to master. So yesterday when I covered, the history and development of yoga, that is what I was saying. Today, yoga is used more as a therapy than the original aim that it had. So first, we are working on curing ourselves right now. Then that is advanced, very advanced level.
Okay, okay.
So we are mostly going to look at things like from where we are right now, because yoga philosophy will not make sense to us if we talk of very high uh, intellectual concepts, because we will not be able to implement this. Like I told you about Ida Pingla Sushumna, right? So even though for the sake of understanding Hatha Yoga, this had to be explained, but you will see in your day-to-day life, how is it going to help you? It is not, right? So the nadis, the names, or how they were crisscrossing, it's not going to help you much in your day-to-day life. The implementation part, how you can work on balancing them, asana practice, pranayama practice, these are going to be more relevant for your life when you look at Hatha Yoga, like in that sense. Right? So, any other doubts from anyone? Right. Okay. So let's just go a little bit more deep, and let me just mention a few places where you can read up more about it if your curiosity has
Yeah.
been.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it just in case you are getting very curious, I will suggest a few books and I will tell you overall format of those books, just little bit elaboration. And if you
Okay.
feel the need, you can go ahead and read up more about it. right?
Okay.
So when it comes to Hatha Yoga, there are a lot of variations that are going on in today's world. And, it's very important to know the authentic practices, right? And even the authentic variation. So it's not correct to say that the variations are not all right. The variations are okay as long as they are authentic in nature. So, people like the yogis who have given these variations, like Ashtang Vinyas style that you practice in your asana class, right? So that is a variation that has been added to Hatha Yoga, right? So the variation in itself is very authentic because the guru who passed it down, he practiced himself and he knew how he was making the variation and why he was making the variation, and then it came out as a separate practice of yoga, right, where Hatha yogic practices were given a totally different style, I would say. So the style that came up, it is quite authentic, but again, it has an authentic source. However, you will see a lot of practices that are going on today are not authentic as well, right? So it is very important for you to rely on the correct texts when you are going for the Hatha yogic practices, because people will not know why they are introducing a particular variation, but they will teach you in that, right? And you will do those things, but they will have very subtle impact on the body, which is not favorable for you if not done correctly. If they say, that do this practice in this way, it is always good to ask where the practice is coming from or what the source of practice is, right? Otherwise, you might end up practicing in a way which can cause harm to your body, right? So the first major text that you can totally rely on is Hatha Yoga Pradipika.
Hatha Yoga.
Pradipika, I'm writing it down also.
Thank you.
Right? HATHYOGA Hatha Yoga Pradipika.
Okay.
Right? So this is like one of the major texts that you can consult. This text has 4 chapters overall. First one is your asana. So the text starts and opens with the, of course, with the greeting, as I told you yesterday, to Lord Shiva. And then, eventually the first chapter is your, the asana chapter, right? Then the second chapter is the pranayam chapter, where the in the beginning only Shat Karma practices are given. So Hatha Yoga Pradipika first chapter is not Shat Karma. It starts with asana. Then in pranayam, by the time all the asanas are introduced and perfected, it has been said in the text that if still your 3 doshas, in your Ayurvedic class, you would have studied Vat, Pitta, and Kapha. So if by the practice of asana, the Vat, Pitta, and Kapha do not get balanced, that is when you go for the practice of Shat Karma. Otherwise, you can directly go into the practice of Pranayama, right? So Shat Karma will be a portion of the second chapter, which is the Pranayam chapter, right? So first is asana, then Pranayam. Then the third chapter is your mudras and bandhas, right? So mudras and bandhas are very advanced practices, and they should only be performed after perfecting the asanas and then going and perfecting the pranayama, and then mudras and bandhas can be incorporated in your practice, right? And the fourth chapter is Nad Anusandhan. So you don't need to know much about this chapter, since first 3 chapters, it will take very long time to, only perfect your asana part, right? And then pranayama part. So Nad Anusandhan, this is where the text merges into the practices of Raj Yoga. and the concept of sound has been deeply discussed in this chapter, right? That is all you need to know. It's very advanced level practice. Okay, so you can leave this one aside. Just for the sake of telling you, there are 4 chapters in the text. These are the 4 chapters, so that if you are planning to read it, you are familiar, right? When you consult the
Soumyaji,
text. Yeah.
you won't believe, like, for 1 or 2 days, I was looking for Nadu and Sadhana. I was looking at it and I was thinking where I can find it, and I got it now.
Yeah. So you can read about it over here, but then again, not a lot. You will, like, information should always be supported with practice. So try to keep these 2 things also in balance, right? So the more you practice, the more you will be able to comprehend whatever is written for what it is written, right? So you can, of course, full chapter
Yeah.
given to this, so you can consult,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
don't get stuck together. That is my like all-time disclaimer. Like for anything
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
to
I just found, like, lots of all the in Hinduism, all the mantras and all the things, all the secret knowledge is already sleeping in the mantras itself.
Yeah. So practice meditation as much as possible. That will take you very deep into the understanding of all of these things, right? So Hatha
Yeah.
Yoga Pradipika is the first major text of Hatha Yoga that you will find, and this text, at the time that this text was written, of course, the environment was different, and all of the food, place, everything was air was different. So over here, you will find limited practices, right? Mention of limited practices. But then, as time progressed and Hatha Yogic texts also changed, right? So and then another Hatha Yogic text, which is very major, is Gheran Samhita. So Gheranbha. And Sahita is Samhita. So as time progresses, this is the second major text that you can consult when it comes to Hatha Yogic practices. And you will see that the number of asanas, the kind of practices, and the placement of the chapters is totally different when you read this text, right? Because now time changed, air, food, environment, everything changed. So the, amount of practices that were needed to reach to that same level, they increased, right? Like today, if we want to reach that level of the Raj Yogi, we will have to do a lot of practices, and many more than the uh, number of practices that a person had to do in that at that point of time. If we go back, environment was much more clean and supportive of the yogic practices. So of course, flexibility, everything is going to be impacted. Your breath and the pranic value in the air, like in pranayam class also I discussed. All of this was much better back then, so less practices were required. So when time moved ahead, then Gheran Samhita was another major text that came in, and the number of practices increased in this text because more practices were required now. Right, so these are 2 main texts that you can consult, and you will see ups and downs in chapter names and uh, chronology of the practices, but that's only because time changed. But these are very reliable and solid sources. So next time any of your student asks you where you took your practices from, you can definitely read these texts and see how the practices are given, and then teach accordingly, so that you have a good backing for the practices that you are propagating. So today the main problem is that the practices are not being propagated authentically. So you will have an authentic source. So take your time before you teach. Try to read the techniques that are given over here properly, so that you can teach accordingly, right? So it is almost time, right? So we'll end today's session. So if there are no doubts, I'll just close the session for you guys.
Thank you so much, Soumya ji.
No worries, no worries. So let's just,
Yes, can we get the PDF form of these Sahitas?
PDF, you will be able to find them online. The
Oh.
Harshad Pradipika Gheran Sahita, if you search and you just write PDF in front of it, mostly it will show up on Google and you can directly download.
Okay, ma'am. They are written by certain gurus named.
Yes, yes, yes. So Harshad Pradipika is written by Swami Satyanand, Swami Swatmaram Saraswati. Yeah, I think.
Swatma.
Yeah, yeah. Wait, I'll just confirm one time for you. Gheran Sahita is written by Maharishi Gheran. So the name of the text itself has the, name of the author. Wait, let me tell you for Harshad Pradipika. Just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. Yeah, Swami Satyanand Saraswati. Okay, no. Under the guidance. So there is a book by Bihar School of Yoga. You can consult that.
Okay, Bihar School.
Yeah, Bihar School of Yoga has a commentary on Harshad Pradipika. So you can consult that one.
Okay, ma'am.
I'll get back to you with the name of the author tomorrow.
Sure,
Right.
ma'am. Sure. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. All right. So let's just close the session with Om Shanti, because you have your next class also. So Om Shanti to everyone. I will see you for your pranayam class in the afternoon. Yeah. So take care and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.